Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Stacey Brown Randall, author of Generating Business Referrals Without Asking. Stacey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you ready to get started?
I am ready.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
I think that's such a good question to ask. And there's so many things I probably would share. I don't want to scare anybody off. But I think the piece of advice that I wish I would have known, it's probably out there, but I didn't have it when I was getting started with my book, is that there is a very real opportunity for a rewrite in your future. And to just be okay with it, to still write the best book that you can. When you get it to your editors and they're going through it, whether, before you kind of get to the grammatical line editing part of the book, but really just that overall look of how the book reads and what it looks like, that you could get feedback back that says, hey, we need to change some things. And my book ended up going through a big rewrite, pretty much like 45 days out from the deadline that the publisher needed the book for. And whereas I knew that was always a potential, I don't think I really truly thought about as, hey, this book could need a rewrite. But the minute 2 people brought it to my attention, I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. And then I spent a good portion of that Thanksgiving and Christmas time rewriting the book. And I think just knowing that was more of a possibility than I thought it was would have been very helpful to know in advance.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
So for me, getting my book deal and being connected with my publisher was actually a quick, easy process for me. I don't think it works that way for everybody if they make the decision to go, to get a publisher and go that route. I was actually referred into my publisher, and that made the whole process, I think, a lot easier from that perspective. And they really liked my book, which I think kind of moved the whole process along. But I think for me, when I think about, so if I kind of take it out of like getting the yes that somebody wants to publish you, I think for me, it was just creating that space and that time to really write a great book and then to have the space and the time to go back and do the rewrites. I'm a mother of 3 small children. I mean, they're not that small. I've got 2 boys that just started middle school, and then I have a daughter who's still in elementary school. But this was 2 years ago when all of them were still in elementary school. And when I was actually writing the book, and I think finding the time to be able to write the way I write best, which is in long spurts of time, not like write an hour a day, that has never worked for me. So I would say that was probably the hardest thing for me, was just to create the space and the time to actually write the book. When it came to actually just getting published, that whole process was probably too easy for me. I think I just got lucky.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
So I would say one of the things that I think worked really well for me was, and it's not one I recognize that everybody can do, because this is going to be something that's maybe more on the expensive side, but actually working with a really good PR firm or publicist has actually been a game changer for me. So my book launched, I had worked off and on with 2 different publicists that didn't really work what I was hoping in advance of the book and the book launch. They just didn't go according to plan. And then, so I didn't really have a publicist kind of going into helping me with the publicity for the book. But then I ended up getting connected with one a couple months after the book came out. And that has made a big difference just in terms of, I think, obviously for book sales perspective, but not even so much that, it's just the recognition of the book and it being out there, and that idea from their reputation and more people knowing about it. They've had me on, national television. I've been articles published in, Entrepreneur and Forbes and Investors Business Daily. And I think all that has made a big difference, particularly for the type of book that I wrote, a business book. has been probably one of the best things that I did. Of course, it was a more expensive one. I would say one that didn't cost as much money as a marketing strategy that worked well for me was actually just applying for some of the awards. I actually won some, which I guess is no guarantee, but being able to say that your book has won a couple of awards has definitely been helpful too, as well with the marketing strategy. So I know that was two. You didn't ask for two, but one that is cost effective and one I don't think is necessarily cost effective for everybody.
So let's talk about the cost-effective one. So you mentioned in regards to applying for awards. So what was your process with that?
So I get a list of awards that I could potentially apply for from my publicist, and they work with a number of authors. So I think they have just collected a list of awards. And so they sent it to me, and I had my assistant kind of go through and figure out deadlines. We went first looking for deadlines and making sure that I was a fit. And then for each one that I was a fit for, she would actually just send me like a short little report that would just say, here's the categories I think you'd be best suited for. Here's the link when you're ready to apply. Here's the cost. Here's what they're looking for. Are they looking for advanced reader copies? Are they looking for the PDF version? So kind of like I knew what to expect when I sat down to apply for those awards. And so I just, I applied for a couple of awards. I got lucky. I actually won two of them, which was great. So from that perspective, it really was, what's the awards that are out there? Which ones am I best suited for? And then as deadlines approached, she would just kind of remind me, hey, it's time to apply for this award. And then I would go in and apply for the award. So it's definitely a great way to build some buzz. And obviously, I think number one, obviously, great. It's great to build buzz, and you can definitely use it in your marketing, which is fabulous. But also, I think it gives you such a motivational boost to knowing that there are people who are critics out there who are actually reading your book, and they like it. And they not only do they like it enough for you to win. So I think for me also that was a great push. Halfway through having my first book out for its first year and having these awards come in, it was worth going through and the applications never took that long, but it was worth taking the time to, either mail out the books and go to the post office and get the books mailed out or apply what you needed to apply online. No award costs more than a couple $100, if that, depending on how many categories you were applying for. So they were I didn't win them all that I applied for, but when you do win, it is such a great boost, I think, for you from that perspective, that motivation. And then also it's great from a marketing perspective to use that your book has won awards as well, just, from that marketing, putting it out there online that, it's an award-winning book and then being able to talk about the awards that it's won.
So what are a couple of these awards that you'd recommend our readers consider applying for?
So, one of the ones that I applied for, it's called the National Indie Excellence Award. And so it's the NIEA Awards. That's the one I got first place in for small business and entrepreneurship. So that's one I would definitely recommend. And again, I think the application process for each award was almost identical. So there aren't many changes, or there aren't many differences, I guess I should say, in the application. It's usually filling out your information, picking your categories, and submitting your book, whether it's a printed copy or a hard copy, or a printed copy or an online copy. Another one that I would recommend is the Independent Press Award. That's another one that I applied for and won a Distinguished Favorite Award in the, I think it was Entrepreneurship and Small Business as well, or maybe it was just Small Business Marketing Category 2. So those were two. Those are the two, of course, that I remember off the top of my head because those are the two awards I won. But there's definitely some other ones that I had applied to as well. But just searching for independent press book awards or just indie book awards is a great place to start just from Googling that.
And then you mentioned some of these. Were there fees for all of these applications, or were some of them free?
No, the ones that I applied for all had application fees. Sometimes it was like $45 per category that you submitted your book for. Sometimes it was maybe a little bit more than that. I don't ever remember, and I would probably submit my book each time for a couple of categories, but I don't ever think I paid more than $300 to submit my book. But that's also because I was always choosing multiple categories.
And then when you won the award, did they send you like a little certificate or a trophy? What did they actually send over to you?
It would be great if they sent a trophy. I could, as adults, we don't get trophies anymore, do we? No, what most of them do is that they obviously send you the email that says, congratulations, you won. And then you have the option. For some of them, they'll create they'll give you the seal that you can then apply on a digital application of the seal. I bought stickers that could go on books for book signings and when I give out books and things like that. But you could also have, some of them just gave you the online seal that you could then have turned into like a social media image. And then some you could actually pay, I think it was like $20, and they would take your book cover with what award you won, and they would create a social media image for you as well. So no, there was no trophies that arrived in the mail, which that would have been awesome. But definitely, it was the email. Hey, you've won. Congratulations. Here's some options to spend more money. Yes. But it was never that much money. I think I got stickers, and it was like not that much money, like less than $100. And then really just getting that digital image of my book cover along with the award name and the category that I won, that was like maybe $20. So, it was really good just to go ahead and have that stuff created and go ahead and start using it. And then you get a press release that you could send out as well.
Well, speaking of books, I'd like to ask, what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
That's a really hard question to answer. I don't think I necessarily have a favorite book because I have so many books that I do love. But so I always like to look on what are the books that I have read recently that have really had an impact on me, and what did I learn from that? And so one of the books, I have a couple that I've read recently that really impacted me, like Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. And then there's also Finish by, I think it's John Acuff. I may be totally messing up his last name. But I really like the book Finish. It's about finishing your goals. And I do a lot of work. Of course, I have with my book, Generating Business Referrals Without Asking, I have some online programs of, growth by referrals and sticky client experiences. But I also have done some work on the with goal setting when I used to be a productivity and business coach. So I'm always looking for ways to just be better at the ability to actually finish what we start and actually accomplish our goals. So his book, Finish, he's a great writer, very conversational in tone, but the book's called Finish. And I think the subtitle is something about like finishing what we start for our goals. And he gave some great tips specific to being able to finish what you start. And one of them was, which I think is great for anybody who suffers from the shiny object syndrome, which is when you get started on something, you're making progress, and then you've got this great, thing that, detracts your attention. You're like, oh, look at the squirrel out here. Look at the shiny object. Let me go do that. His advice was always to take that thing next that you want to work on and put it as the reward at the end of the goal you're currently working on. So you actually finish what you're working on without getting distracted by the bright shiny object, and the bright shiny object becomes your reward for actually completing your goal. So just some great strategies like that I think are really, really valuable.
Excellent. Well, Stacey, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
So my home base is StaceyBrownRandall.com. Of course, I'm on most of the social media platforms under Stacey Brown Randall. And Stacey does have an E, but I'm on Facebook page, LinkedIn. I have a Facebook group, Referrals Without Asking, also on Twitter and Instagram as well. So look for me at Stacey Brown Randall, or sometimes it's Stacey B. Randall. But definitely the home base is StaceyBrownRandall.com, my website.
Stacey, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.